Hello and welcome to episode 1 of The Property Show. Our panel discussion today, a beginner's guide to investing in real estate. I'm Kelly Seaton, the director and owner of the Leasing Network, and I'll be your host for the panel discussion today. We're coming to you from the Red Tree Theatre in Tuggerah on the Central Coast, New South Wales. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge that we are meeting on the land of our First Nations people, and we appreciate this and respect them and their elders past, present and emerging. The Leasing Network will be producing a number of episodes on various topics related to residential property investing and property management over the coming months, so keep an eye out for those. Today though, we're discussing the ideas to support anyone new to property investing by introducing you to the expert panellists who engage with our property investor clients before we do. They will share their insights about themselves, including issues and rewards of investing in residential property. We have a great panel lineup today to help us. So please welcome to the show Paul Hills from the agency Central Coast, Darren Hooper, the General Manager for Central Coast Unity Bank, and Karlene Glanville, the Principal Licensed Conveyancer for Karlene's Conveyancing. Welcome to the show, everybody.
Thanks for having us.
All four of us will be having a conversation today based around the questions I ask. And just before I ask the questions, I'd like to acknowledge and thank our sponsors who you see on the screen. As part of the Stronger Than Excuses platform, these shows are created to help you, the viewer, to have confidence to take action, to not make excuses. So every show will wrap up with some action tools, and as you're watching on YouTube or other social media, please ask questions and we will answer them for you as quickly as possible. Just quickly in a few sentences, can you each tell me what you do and why a client of the Leasing Network might use your services? Paul.
Thank you, Kelly. My name's Paul. I'm a licensed real estate agent working on the Central Coast here. I subcontract to the agency and we operate all over the Central Coast. So as you know, Kelly, you and I have done a lot of business together where your clients have used my services to sell their investment property, and also some of your investors have looked at buying another property.
Yeah. Darren.
Hi Kelly, thanks for inviting me here today. Look, I work with Central Coast Unity Bank. I'm the General Manager there for the Central Coast region, and what we can provide the Leasing Network members is the finance required to purchase an investment property. So we've been on the Central Coast ourselves for over 50 years and providing the consumer on the Central Coast and nationally the opportunity to buy investment properties. So that's how we can help your clients.
Great, thank you. And Karlene?
Hello Kelly, thank you for having me. I am a licensed conveyancer, so I can help your people. I do all the legality work with explaining the contract and going through the contract for people with property law as to what they're buying.
Excellent, thank you. Let's talk about buying an investment property. So Paul, what issues do you see while you're helping people during that real estate investment journey? Are there some mistakes that less experienced investors might make? I'll start with you.
Great question. I think when buying an investment property, it's very different to buying a home to live in, and I think the biggest mistake people will make and do make is buying with their heart instead of their head. Buying an investment property has got to be more of a business transaction, and you don't want to get too emotionally attached to the home you're buying. You've got to look at the numbers, look at the area that you're buying, and really do your research.
Yep. So
I think one mistake is that people may overpay and not think about the return on their investment.
Okay, thank you. And Darren, what would you come across in finance?
Look, I totally agree with what Paul's saying regarding the research element. The biggest challenge I find with members or our clients in regarding buying an investment property is your pre-approval of a loan. It's one, probably the most important thing that we see. I see now members coming or clients coming to us and asking, they found a home that they want to invest in on the weekend, they put down a deposit and they haven't got their finance sorted out.
Right.
So I guess the biggest thing I can see for the best advice I can give to anyone looking to purchase an investment property, obtain your pre-approval first, so you know exactly how much you can afford to borrow, and then you can then go into a certain market. So you might, if you can only afford $500,000, but then that restricts you on where you're going to buy. You might have to buy interstate. Melbourne or Queensland to get that property. But as we identify your range where you can buy, ideally, if you're looking for a better capital growth, then the Central Coast, Sydney is going to be a greater opportunity. So I would say, find out how much you can afford, and then go into the market where you can afford to purchase that property.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. And Karlene, what do you feel clients need help with the most?
Okay, so when they're buying an investment property, I'm actually the last person they think about. They go and see the real estate agent, they see the finance person, and they forget that they need the advice on the contract to ensure that they know what they're purchasing, and that's my job to ensure they understand fully the property, what they're getting, what they think they're getting is what they're getting. So that's my part. And as I say, I'm the last one down the line that they think of, so which is, finance is very important and all the research on it and all that, but the understanding what you're buying is really, really important.
Okay. So I guess to wrap that up, it'd be all about planning, really.
Yep.
If you could give one valuable tip to ensure the future clients start off on the right foot and don't make mistakes when buying their investment property, what would it be? Darren, I'm going to start with you.
Great, I'm glad I go first this time, because I know I've covered this earlier, but your homework, doing your preparation, seeking out advice from real estate on what your yield's going to be on your investment. So I currently try to work, you only asked for one thing, didn't you? But I'll probably give a number, but I have a number of investment properties myself, and I look for that yield between 4.5% and 5.5% to know percent, so to know I'm going to be able to almost positive gear a property rather than negative gear, and then it comes down to rates. So it's hard to give just one thing, but if you concentrate on your preparation and your homework, that would be your biggest, your best advice that I could provide for anyone.
Okay.
And, I'm covering the same sort of stuff, but it's so important.
Okay, yeah. And Karlene?
Yeah, definitely. Knowing what you're buying, understanding the property that you're purchasing, the area, all that sort of thing. I think understanding it the most, and getting as much advice and knowledge on the area and the property that you're buying. Yeah. Again, we repeat ourselves, but it's homework, checking it all out. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And Paul?
I agree with both what Darren and Karlene have said, but research, but also talk to as many different real estate sales agents as you can. Seek some possibly off-market opportunities, and also talk to different leasing managers, because that's really important. Check out what sort of rental yield they get, and that's equally as important, I'd say.
I think a lot of people, in my experience, don't understand how to work out the yield and whether that is good growth.
Yeah.
Obviously we're trying to find yields of, as you said, upwards of 4.5% to 6% or something like that, but people don't understand how to work that out.
I think if you're doing your research on areas, look for long-term capital growth as well. And one tip I would give people is perhaps engage a buyer's agent. Buyer's agents are becoming more popular on the Central Coast. They're employed to work for you to get you the best deal, and they'll do all your research, especially if you're an out-of-area buyer and you don't know the areas. They'll do all that research for you.
Yeah, that costs a bit more money, but well worth it.
But they're trained in negotiations, which is something that I'm not.
Yeah.
My job is to explain the contract, what you're buying. Whereas an agent, you do the negotiations and all that sort of thing, which is, you taught the same language.
Yeah.
And where to explain what it is, the language, because it's all different.
Yeah.
So you've got to look at this as a business plan. You've got to go in that way, as you say, not with your heart.
Yep.
Because you're building your wealth, you're wanting to grow yourself and everything, but you've got to come in with the right.
Yeah.
Too much knowledge is not enough.
That's right.
Yeah, that's how I look at it.
And you've got to make sure that your rental covers your mortgage repayments and extra, because if interest rates do rise as possibly predicted, then you've got to make sure that that's more than covered.
Yeah.
I think in addition to that too, like a lot of investors will look at negative gearing and having to put that extra money in. So if the rental is not covering the actual repayments, they'll need to identify a budget where they can cover that shortfall themselves as well. So because rates are going to go up, and the consumer will need to understand, have a budget in addition to the actual expenses there, so they can cover that additional cost. Because even in my own purpose, when I started out investing there, I was negative gearing and putting a lot of my own money into it. So you have to be able to understand that's going to happen as well.
Yeah.
But people shouldn't be too concerned about expenses either. So you talk about a buyer's guide. It does cost money, but at the end of the day, if it's an investment, it'll be a tax deduction in the long run.
Yeah.
So apart from speaking to a buyer's guide, you should probably speak to your local accountant as well to find out what are going to be your tax deductions, because not everything in regarding purchasing a property can be a tax deduction. So you really need to speak to a buyer's guide and an accountant in as part of that preparation.
Discuss land tax and your threshold and all that there. Yeah, getting an accountant's advice is also very important.
I find a lot of people, when they get to us, that they actually don't have a buffer.
Yeah.
So for that other incidentals and things like that.
That's
so
what I was going to say,
definitely
is
good
maintenance.
advice.
You've also got to make sure you've got a little bit of a kitty there for the dishwasher. As much as you don't expect it to go, you can.
It will go.
Yeah, it will. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's life, yeah.
And it comes down, again, to what you're looking at. If you're looking at buying a property which is 30 or 40 years old, you're going to have those additional costs.
Definitely.
Where if you're buying something off the plan or something brand new, your depreciation works better. The first 10 years on your fixtures and fittings. These are sort of benefits that accountant will be able to advise. But you sort of things, you buy something a little bit older and you're going to have additional expenses. So again, my advice would be try to buy something under that 10-year-old mark. And on the Central Coast, it's becoming a lot harder to find that sort of market here. But yeah, again, you have to weigh it up. What's going to be more cost effective and what you want to put into your negative gearing sort of scenario if it gets to that stage.
The three of you have just mentioned buyer's agents, accountants and tax depreciation, and they're on an upcoming show. So it's great.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you.
Even your conveyancer, the information you can provide as well. Like we get people in and we do your conveyancer does your legal work, and but again your valuable information that you guys provide. I put it in that
There's
same
a
sort of
team behind
category.
you. There's always it's teamwork, and you've got to form yourself a good group of connections that's important for you to go on and keep growing with your investment properties, because once you get your first one and equity, that's where your equity is. Let's use this to our advantage now to build our wealth. It's a great, that's how my dad made his money, was property. And
And just doubling up on what Darren said there about conveyancers, it's really important that you get a good conveyancer, because it can be quite a speedy process if it's in a particularly hot market. You need a conveyancer that's going to act
communication
quickly,
is
and communication
very important, and understanding the language, access, everything like that. Being in communication with the agent, with the banker and the broker to get everything moving along.
And we all need to
so
have a
we're
good
all on a
relationship.
time frame. We've all got to communicate and be available for each other and be on the same level. Because yes, we've got a job to do, but the most important thing is to get it done for our client. So we meet these deadlines and we're all on time and we work together is extremely important.
It's definitely a teamwork, isn't it?
Oh, definitely.
Okay, thank you. What would you suggest your client does to ensure that they receive the best outcome when buying an investment property? Do you have a summary or a checklist? Karlene, I'll start with you.
Yeah. Checklist with everything. That's what we work off all the time. I pass it on to my clients. They get a folder with all the checklist of the stages of what we're going through, where we're at with everything. As I say to my clients, I talk a lot, I say a lot, and I give you a lot of information, but as we go along, you will understand what process is happening along the line at all times.
Okay, great, excellent. Paul?
Yeah, I would say definitely some sort of checklist, but even if it's just your figures, work on your figures. Talk to the agent that you're possibly buying through. Get an indication of the price of the property. Research the area. Look at the capital growth in that area, the forecast if there is one. But definitely figures. It's all about your figures, really.
And that will give them the best outcome.
Well, yes.
Great. And Darren?
Your best outcome, and Paul covered this earlier, is about you want your best capital growth in your property, and identifying properties which are going to be close to transport, shopping centres, schools, where you're going to be able to get someone to rent your property out, and no delays in having people coming in and out of your property. So again, it's really comes down to identifying growth areas, and you can do that by doing your homework and speaking to buyers guides or real estates within certain areas that you've identified that you want to purchase an investment property.
I think just adding to that, Darren, I think there are talk of the interest rates and going up, and they are going to go up. We know that, but it doesn't need to be a scary thought. As long as you project your figures into that, or project the interest rate growth into your figures, rather than long-term game, isn't it? Like you say, like if you're going to be doing flipping houses, then you need to be looking at different type of home. But if you're thinking about investing for the long term, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, interest rates are still quite low, even though they're going up.
Well, that's right.
But you've been factoring that in already, haven't you?
So financial institutions have to provide a buffer of 3%.
Yeah.
So for anyone who's approved a loan, we will factor in a 3% buffer. So rates now about 2.5%. So we have to calculate it being 5.5%. So hopefully rates don't go up by more than 3%, and that's what our regulators make us provide. So ideally, being a mutual bank as well, one of the benefits of being a mutual bank is any banking institution want to look after their members, their clients. The last thing we want to do is take a possession of a property. It's not our market. So as long as you work with your financial institution, your banking institution, a solution will come about. So that's a worst case scenario. So don't be too concerned. But with rates going up, what would usually happen, value properties will stabilise, rates go up, but the rental market, so obviously an investor needs to cover their interest, so you'll find that rentals start going up. So don't be too concerned when rates do go up, because that'll allow the investor to put the rental rates up, so to cover their interest. So again, investor, you've got to be looking at that, whatever's going to cost me, providing you're earning an income on the side, you'll be able to use that as a tax deduction when you against your income and your taxes that you pay. So I try not, like I said, I've been in the investment market myself for many years now, and I try not to get caught up in your cost side of things, because in some cases I want more cost because I want to pay less tax. Yeah. So try not to get caught up in that area.
Yeah, you've got the strategy behind that to be able to spend the money to make the money.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. So Paul, I'll go to you first on this question. When should a client first get in touch with you if they needed to use your services?
Pretty much straight away, because then I can put them in the direction of brokers and conveyancers. But certainly approach me at any time. We can talk about different areas of good investment areas and that sort of thing. We try and be very approachable with buyers. It's a scary time out there, especially in a hot market. So I think just come and see us straight away. And if you want to talk to buyer's agent, we can put you in touch with them.
This is not a question on my sheet, but I know that you have a database of buyers, and people can buy off market.
Definitely.
Is it common now to buy off market?
It's become more and more common. I think I've got two on that are off market at the moment, where the owner doesn't really want to actively put it on the market. They're happy to just run it through the database, and we've got and they're all properties that have got tenants in, so ideal investments.
So you really need to speak to those clients early.
Yes.
Yeah.
And some owners don't particularly want us to be doing open homes, disturbing the tenants and so on. So we do have various properties that are off market, and if you're on our database, then we can just call you straight away and let the owner know that we have someone that could be interested, and you might get it at a better price, not competing. Yeah.
Great, thank you. And Karlene, when should people come to you? You say that they come to you last.
Yes, because they've got their finance they're looking for. They know they can borrow the money. They've got their pre-approvals, so they go out looking at a property. They don't understand that I've got to go through the contract, explain to them the legalities of what they're getting into, and so they understand exactly what they're purchasing with easements, covenants, restrictions on use, all that sort of thing. So, yeah, get in contact with us as soon as possible. We can go over the contract. I'll go through it and explain everything, special conditions, release of deposit clauses, if there's tenants in there, what their responsibility is. And if you're an investor and you're buying a property with a tenant, there's no changeover. You're getting rent straight away. So from the day of settlement, and you've got to make sure you understand that that tenant's in there, what their lease is, how long their lease is valid for, and all that sort of thing. So as soon as possible, get in contact with us and we'll go through it all.
Can I just jump in?
Yes.
Sorry, I should have mentioned, before you come to open homes, do talk to your broker first, get your pre-approval and so on. Talk to an agent any time, but you don't want to go through a property, fall in love with it, it's a really good return and everything, but then not be financially ready because you're likely to miss out. So
I'm expecting Darren's going to say that because that's the next question.
Ah.
But yes, because you'll get an attachment to that straight away.
Well,
and
I
not be
said
able to
because
come
I
through
said
it.
come to us at any time. I mean, talk to the agent at any time. Talk to agents constantly, but really you want your finance before you go looking.
What's your thoughts, Darren?
Well, Paul, there, just I probably find that most people will go to the real estate and start looking around before they go to the bank for one reason or another. I don't know why that is. And then once they've planted that seed in their head, yes, I want to buy an investment property, that's when they come and see us. So before they put down any deposits or make any decisions, the first thing they need to do then is to come to see us or see their financial institution. Hopefully it's us, but they go to their financial institution, find out, get your pre-approval. Know exactly how much you can borrow. Like, you might be looking at a property, you've gone and seen Paul, and Paul's showed this property for $1 million. You then go to your bank and they say, oh, well, sorry, we can lend you 700,000. So it'll come down to the equity that you have currently in your place. And some there might be first-time investors who don't even have a property of their own. Their parents may be saying, what I've noticed in the past, their parents say, you've got to go out and get an investment property. You've got to start worrying about your future. So we see a lot of young people just going out, getting backing from their parents, whether the parents use their property or whether they provide them with the deposit up front. But you need to be looking at 20% deposit to save on mortgage insurance. But we will lend with 5% deposit, which most financial institutions will do, but you've got to pay that mortgage insurance. So again, your mortgage insurance becomes part of your expense as an investor. But you need to be able to find out what your pre-approval is. And now you're looking at $1 million loan. If you only get 400 to 700,000. So work that one out first. So between your real estate and your financial institution, they're your first point of call before moving forward.
All right.
Because all of that comes down to time frame.
Yeah.
If you find a property, you go into your cooling off period. We've got a very small window here. And with the property market being so active, your vendors don't want to extend that cooling off period. They want to know it's a done period. So we get the property, we've got the finance, we've got to get the valuation done.
No, I don't know what you're saying, because
Timeframe.
a vendor will more than likely be in a negotiation period if they know your purchaser has already got their finance approved.
Yes.
So
we've got that time frame of the 5 days under a contract for sale that we've got to get the valuation done, we've got to get the pest and building done, we've got to explain the contract, you've got to know what you're getting and all that sort of thing, that the vendors don't want to extend that time. They want to know it's sold. Otherwise, they want to put it back on the market and get the right buyer for it so that we don't have to waste time with getting it all done.
I think the worst thing that could happen is you go out there, look at a property, negotiate with the agent, compete against the people that are buying with their heart, perhaps, and you get involved in that negotiation process, agree a purchase, enter into a cooling off period, and then find out that you can't borrow enough money. Then it's
you've lost your 0.25%, which is part of your deposit.
Yeah.
Which you've just got to. It's not $100; it's thousands now that we're talking about. So, but having all your dots, all your checkpoints in a line, everything ready to go. So you know exactly, and you're not wasting your own time and your own money.
Yeah.
it's probably more relevant in the case of an auction as well. Like, no use going to an auction unless you know how much you can bid on. So there's sort of things.
And then you go to auctions and that's what our property market is doing at the moment. A lot more auctions are out there because we've got people coming from outside of the coast to buy on the Central Coast because we've got such great opportunities investment-wise and all that sort of thing. you've got to have, so when you're going to an auction, you're buying that property on that day, you've got to have your approval, you've got to have the deposit ready to go, and you've got to understand the contract 100%, because if you're the successful bidder, you are the purchaser that day. You're locked in. There's no cooling off period, there's no nothing. So yeah, if you're going to go to an auction, get your finance 100% in place and understand your contract.
And can I jump in again? Pest and building inspection. So if you are going to buy at an auction, make sure you have one of those done. Quite often the vendor or the agent would have had one done, so definitely ask. If there hasn't been one done, $500 will get you a good pest and building inspection.
The best,
100%
yeah,
to do.
$500 you can spend.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so quick summary is finance first, hopefully. So that way you don't get disappointed. Find the property, talk to the conveyancer.
Yep.
Done. Thank you. Right, so lastly, I'd like to ask you all for one word to wrap up the actions that we just spoke about. One word that is an action that viewers can take away from the show. So just one word. Darren?
Pre-approval. I know it's kind of abbreviated one word, but pre-approval. Get your pre-approval done.
That's one word. Pre-approval. Okay. Yep. Paul?
Preparation.
Okay. Yep.
I think just like Karlene mentioned, get all your ducks in a line, make sure everything's perfectly good before you jump in.
Okay, great. And Karlene?
Knowledge.
Knowledge. Wonderful. Well, that is it from our expert panel today. Thank you all for your insights and contribution to the show. Our viewers have a better understanding now of how to invest in property. There are plenty of actions that anyone can use to support their own investment journey. And thank you again to all our sponsors. We appreciate the support on the panel insights today. Remember that you can watch us through YouTube or other social media and ask us a question of the panel. We'll be available to respond to you. Share with anyone that you think the show might support. Thanks again to today's panel of experts: Paul Hills, the property partner with the agency Central Coast, Darren Hooper, the General Manager of the Central Coast Unity Bank, and Karlene Glanville, the Principal Licensed Conveyancer for Karlene's Conveyancing. Thanks again for watching. I'm Kelly Seaton, the Director and Owner of the Leasing Network, and we'll see you next time.